And I'll give you just a really quick, great story about this kid, Derek. It was at my first camp, and I was trying to do soap with him. He had a basketball. And I said, well, Derek, what do you think about this soap? Wouldn't say a word to me, you know. So we're just sitting there, and he's got the ball, and he's kind of bouncing it. And I said, you think Jesus played basketball? And then all of a sudden he kind of turns his head a little bit, and I go, I bet you did. What do you think Jesus would be, like a power forward or a guard? Or and so he started getting, you know, he started talking a little bit, and he goes, nah, they had that when Jesus. I said, oh, I'm sure they played basketball. It's been around forever. And so I said, why don't you write something about that, you know, in this on the paper? And what this kid wrote, I mean, you talk about something that was inspired by the Lord. I mean, I was floored. And I said, do you want to get up and talk to the people? This kid was like 8 years old, you know, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. I said, that's good. This is really good. That night when I'm going back to the cabin, you know, I feel a little tug on my back, and I turn around, and it's Derek. And I said, what's up, Derek? And he goes, can I talk to you? And he takes me off to the side. He's looking around like, you know, I'm going, what's this kid going to do? You know, he's looking around, see if anybody's around. He just goes, I love you. And he just runs off.
Oh, nice.
And when I'm telling that story, you know, the hairs are standing up on the back of my neck, you know, because, you know, that makes everything worthwhile.
Let's go.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Wednesday evening and the Tommy podcast. We got two Toms here, and I was just mentioning to the guys, we've got Tom Chitwood, who's with us to talk about Camp Agape, California, and of course Tommy G, who's the lifeblood of the enthusiasm for our show right now. So. We're excited to have you, Coach, and I'm going to call you Coach because I don't know any other way. It's been Coach since the beginning, and you know, I'm Tom Gordon and Tom Chitwood both were GA type guys on staffs that I either played on or coached on. Whenever I played, you were just how many years, Coach, had you been on? Just a year or two at St. Paul? Whenever
right, yeah, I was in my second year.
Second year, and you were coaching the sophomores or the freshmen, and then coming up and doing varsity, or what was your specific role?
Yeah, I had the freshman team in '77 with Dan Caston on, and then was in varsity in '78.
Yeah, and so we got to spend you know, time with Tom Gordon in 1990 when we were coaching, and we took a team to the finals, and met the same demise as we did whenever I was a senior in high school. But you know, you both guys were the guys coming up, working on the lower levels. You know, Tom scouted for 14 weeks, scouted 13 weeks, scouted every team we played. It was at practice every day, but never saw one of our games.
Yeah, it was weird.
So he was out doing the scouting for us, and you know, all I can remember is you, Coach, running around with Roddy Hyatt and John Larson and those guys, and we all just looked at you like, man, you know, that's the biggest torture thing that could happen, you know, is to follow those guys around. You know, those
I won't even go there.
They were rough. They were rough, and great guys, unbelievable coaches, and you know, we can talk about that later too. But Coach, welcome, and glad to have you. And we're excited to talk about Camp Agape, California. A group that Tom will talk a little bit more about, but helping kids of incarcerated parents and putting on a camp coming up here in a few weeks, and we're going to talk about that and give you some dates and all that good stuff. But welcome, Coach Tom Chitwood, and thanks a lot for being here, man.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, Tommy.
What is where did it all begin for you? What can you tell us a little bit about your background real quick before we get into your present?
Well, I grew up in Whittier. I was probably 10 minutes away from St. Paul. I went to St. Bruno Grammar School, and half the school went to St. Paul from St. Bruno. And I wanted to go to St. Paul badly, but my mom was a teacher, and she believed I would get a better education at Loyola High School down in Los Angeles. But you know, it was a long trek from Whittier to LA, but my dad worked down there.
Yeah.
And so I went to Loyola High School, graduated from there. And then I went to University of San Diego, play football, Division III.
Nice.
Really enjoyed that until we got put on probation. So there was no more football until they came around later on. And Jim Harbaugh, as a matter of fact, was a coach at the University of San Diego. It was one of his first schools. And then when I came back, I worked part-time at Farmer John. I went to Fullerton State for a couple of classes, and then I coached. I got in. Coach Katulski called me up and said, "How would you like to, take over the freshman team?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And it took off from there. I learned an awful lot when I was coaching at St. Paul. I was there for a total of 4 years. The fourth year was more, Marion calling up and saying, "Hey, these guys don't know how to do the kicking game, and you don't do this, and don't do that. Can you come in down and, kind of take care of this stuff?" Tony Molino, who was a coach at St. Paul, he taught me the St. Paul way. I really didn't know the St. Paul way until Tony got his hands on me. And then when you talk about scouting, we used to go out and scout, and we would do everything on our own. We'd have the scouting report done really before, Saturday and Sunday rolled around. And on the old punch cards, you put a little stickum thing through the corners and you get all the formations, but that was ancient history compared to what they do now, it's quite amazing. But it was something where you learned a lot of football by doing things that way, just by handling everything, seeing all the sets, how they go, becoming a film junkie. We just watch films till, from morning to morning, it seemed like, but that was a great experience. I think if I had it to do all over again, I probably would have stayed, been a teacher, and stayed in coaching, because it was really great.
So where did you go next, Tom?
I went on to Carl's Jr. I started with Carl's Jr. as a assistant manager, and then I became a manager, district manager, regional vice president in 1986. I moved to Arizona for a couple of years for Carl's, went out there and helped turn that market around. Then became a vice president with Carl's. I had the LA market, Orange County, San Diego, and that was quite an experience. I was with them for almost 20 years. Man. And then there were a lot of changes that happened at Carl's. They're all franchised now. There's no longer any company stores. And then I went on to Target, became an executive with Target. I was with them for 12 years. And
that was my first job.
Was it really?
Yeah, I was a Christmas hire, the cart boy.
Yeah.
Bringing the carts.
Hey, you got the electric machine though. Back in the old days.
No. It was old school. I was bench pressing those things and hitting the sled and all that stuff.
Then you know, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but that was I forget their slogan, but it was I shouldn't forget it, but buy more, pay less, or get more, pay less. Too bad their pay wasn't the same, but it was a good company, and they're doing really well now. And from then I went on and I worked a couple of years at Bed Bath & Beyond as an executive, and then just kind of ran out of gas. My body kind of ran out on me, from old injuries and stuff, so I retired.
What kind of leadership style did you have? Would you say? What was your main style?
I'm really a people guy. I wasn't at first, but I really got a lot of the good things done through people. I know when we were at Carl's Jr., one of our slogans that we talked about to all employees was just make the guest happy. We'd walk into a store and ask him, "What's your job?" And, he would say, "Oh, I'm cashier, I'm dining room." And we would say, "No, we want you to know, make the guest happy." And when that took, our sales took off. We had record sales, and it was just a really some good district managers, some great managers, and we were very fortunate in all the areas, especially in the LA market, because we went through the riots down there in LA, and there was we lost one restaurant, but other than that, we had some really great performing managers and restaurants.
I know that knowing a little bit about Camp Agape and what you're about to talk about, and the faith-based concepts that obviously plays into a big part of your life now. Where did the growth of that come, and how did that play into your management? And was that has that been? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I was brought up by very strong Catholic parents. My dad was he was a Baptist convert before he married my mom.
Oh, nice.
But I always remember back, and this is when I was coaching at St. Paul. I went to a retreat called a Curcio, and it was just an amazing 3 days. Glenn Bell was our team leader, Ricky Bell's cousin.
Wow.
And it was just, God touched me at that retreat like I've never been touched before. And when I think about just that small time I had alone with him in that chapel, and I had a book called My Daily Bread that I would constantly read, and I was praying, and I asked God, what do you want to do with my life? Where am I going to go? And I opened the book at random, and he gave me my answer right there. The hairs on the back of my neck still stand up from that. But, there was a strong belief from then on that my relationship with the Lord, and moved forward with that. And, took it into work. It helped me a great deal in work. In fact,
Yeah,
my faith,
that was Carl's Jr. It was a big Catholic thing, right? I mean, he was a strong Catholic, Mr. Karcher. Is that true?
Yeah, Carl Karcher.
Yeah.
Carl Karcher was a very strong, and so was his brother Don. All the Karchers,
Right.
were very strong in their faith, and that kept us. I wouldn't be going without it. Where I even am today, I went to the doctor the other day. He says, "I don't know how you're walking," and I said, "Well, good Lord, yeah, that's what keeps me going." And I've been very fortunate in my faith, and the Lord has been great to me.
Nice. Did you ever cross a path in moving over to Target and working in different companies? Was there ever a challenge to your faith? Was there ever a challenge to be tone that down, or was that ever a part of your outward leadership skills?
No, it was never. I would mention different things on the job. God be with you, or if a person was struggling. Like one time we had a young girl, she wanted to get an abortion, and I sat down and I talked to her, and I said, it's your decision. You have your relationship with God. You have to do what you want to do. But in fact, I called Carl Karcher, and I asked him, I said, would you mind talking to this young lady? He came down and spoke to the girl, and she ended up, having the baby. She
Wow.
she didn't keep the baby, but she turned it over, for adoption. And that was very meaningful, very memorable for that to happen. And for Carl to come down personally and talk to her was really, really something.
Yeah.
Wow, that is huge.
That's fantastic. So where did Camp Agape, California, come into your life, and tell us a little bit about the journey getting there and being involved, and we can start to talk about the camp a little bit.
Yeah, it started in Hawaii, and I was at a men's prayer group, and John Vallejo, who's one of the managers of Camp Agape, with his wife Liz, they were going to camp in Hawaii, and we were praying for them at this men's prayer group, and we just started talking, and John says, we should think about doing this in California, and said, why not? Why can't we? And there was a man named Anthony Torres, and John and his wife, myself, and a couple of people. We just started following the outline that Hawaii had. And when they came back from Hawaii, we had a meeting of about 4 of us at John's house, and we just started setting up the structure of it.
Nice.
Who was going to do what, who was going to be in advertising, who was going to be in hospitality, and we prayed a lot. That's one thing. Prayer, there's nothing stronger than prayer, and that was one of our biggest focuses. Is that we had regular prayer meetings where all we did was pray for the ministry and for the kids and where we were going to go, and it really started to grow out of that.
It makes the statistics are unbelievable in California. We have is it the largest incarceration amount of people that
That's
are
correct.
incarcerated, $75,000 a person, right? And I can understand why this would be such an important program for California, but why do you think it began in, or what was the origin story with Hawaii? Why was Hawaii the beginning of Camp Agape?
They had a lot of crime, juvenile crime in Hawaii. And when they started, Pastor Roy, he was a convicted, felon.
Oh, wow.
And his story alone, if you go online and you read about where he came from and what he went through with the justice system to finally come across a judge that said, we're going to give you one more shot. And he started Camp Agape there in Hawaii. And like I said, crime was completely out of control, juvenile crime. Mm-hmm. And they started opening camps on every island. And it was up till 2 years ago, juvenile crime had gone down almost 55% over all the islands combined. And that's huge.
Wow.
I mean, to know that, and, they don't house a lot of the criminals in Hawaii. They house a lot of them in Arizona. And, we had groups that would go out and visit the prison, and they would see what's happening with their kids. And it started to change a lot of the prisoners, both female and male, their outlook on life, and saw what their kids were doing and said, wow, this is doing this for my kid. Maybe I need to start looking at it. Sure. So there were more and more of the prisoners that started to turn to the Lord. And it was really, really something. And we're seeing that happen in California. I mean, we had unbelievable momentum with camp, and then COVID hit, but with God, that's just a minor hiccup. With God, so that you can't say that's impossible with God.
How many years have you done it in California?
We're going on our 6th year since we started it.
Wow.
And we're going on our 5th camp, if you take away that we didn't have it last year. But it's really taken off. It really has. And God has really been good to us.
Is there a certain amount of kids that you guys can service, or is it just, how does that all work?
The camp that we go to is in the San Bernardino Mountains. We don't like to say the camp or the protection of the kids until we're actually going to camp. But it's an 85-acre camp, and we've had as many as 225 kids signed up.
Wow.
And the last camp before COVID hit, we were taking close to 475 people with kids, mentors, volunteers up to the camp. And it's a great facility. They got great ministry facilities, great eating facilities. And in fact, this year, we've had more signing up than we have in all the past years. I think a lot of that has to do with the kids being locked up, in the home and not able to go to school. But, we're getting to the point where we're having a waiting list.
Oh, wow.
And the thing that's amazing about Camp Agape is right now, we're in Riverside, a little bit of Long Beach, central Orange County. We haven't gotten to LA yet, because LA is kind of probably a little bit different set of circumstances. And we're slowly, bringing more and more kids out from the Los Angeles area that are joining up too.
What's the hope, Tom? What's the hopeful outcome? What is the camp trying to do for these children?
We want to overcome the intergenerational curse of incarceration,
and break the cycle, huh?
Yeah, we're probably not going to be around to see the total fruit of this. Right. We'll be able to watch it from up above, praise God. But you just have to stay after it, because the numbers can go as negative as they can positive if you don't keep loving on these kids. This past weekend, we went to a football camp, and, there were about 225 kids there.
Wow.
And if you saw the looks on, Kenny Clark's amazing, by the way, with the Packers, but if you saw the looks on these kids' faces, just having fun, being loved on, getting autographed from them, barbecue, things were happening for them. They were being doted on, and that they never get that. you know.
What is the typical life for these folks? I mean, I think we can kind of guess, but when you talk to the kids, what are the things that they say? What is their life like? I mean, they don't know any different, or do they know different, or what's the deal?
You know, the thing that they see in their lives is a lot of appeal, you know, all around throughout their entire family, whether it be the mom or the dad. We had a prayer board up in camp. The first year we had one board. The second year we had two big boards where they could write their prayers. And when you see a child, you know, really put their heart on a chalkboard that says, you know, please get my mom off drugs. I'm praying for my dad who got shot, who's in heaven now. I mean, you literally, you just start crying.
Yeah.
You know, there's nobody that's so tough that they wouldn't look at that and just break down, you know. But the kids come in, and when they come into the camp, at first they're, you know, a little apprehensive, a lot of them. And then second day, the spirit drops, and, you know, they start hugging each other. They're laughing. They're having fun. They're sharing their experiences with other kids. That's you know, awesome. Some of the kids going through the same thing I'm going through. And that's when it really becomes amazing. You know?
That's an amazing thing to see. When the commonality starts to people look around in a safe environment, you know, they get to be themselves, and it you know, at the core, that love and those things come out. It's fantastic to see. You know, it's one of the great things about working with adolescents that you know, when you see those breakthroughs, and obviously you get to see them on a pretty large scale, you know, that must be just really moving. It must take a lot of support from the you know, where do you guys get your support from, and you know, talk about the people who support this thing, that make this thing go.
Well, you know, I was fortunate enough to be named the outreach coordinator, and my job is to go out to all the churches and any faith groups, any organizations that may be interested in supporting us. But the churches have just been unbelievable. You know, for the first time, you know, like I said, I grew up a Catholic. The Catholic Church is very structured, you know, and they have their own things going on. But this was the first year where we finally broke through to Catholic churches. Nice. And it's important for me, you know, being raised as a Catholic, is to bring more support to camp. And we're starting to get that now. But all the other denominations, and I mean, there's numerous ones, are just incredible. We have a center of Baptist churches that are just incredible. You know, and Baptist ministers are all they're said and put up to be, man. They get you 10 feet off the ground when you go to their, you know, to their service. But they're really in touch. You know, they have people out in that group whose people have been incarcerated. You know, and we went to a church out in Riverside 3 weeks ago, and the pastor had come within 1 day of dying from an overdose of heroin. Whoa. And his church, when we got up and we did the presentation, we had every church member sign up for camp. And the pastor said, well, we're not going to have service that weekend. We'll have service up at the camp. Right on. You know, and you talk about God, just, man, he presents something new every day. When I go out and do things, I went to rent a car one time, and the lady said, what do you do? I said, I work with the children of incarcerated parents. And she says, oh, you know, my husband's in prison, and I have a 14-year-old that I don't know what to do with, you know, he's really having a tough time right now. And I said, oh, well, we have a camp that'd be great for him to go to. And, oh, I can't afford that. I said, well, the camp doesn't cost anything. Well, it's got to cost something, you know, they're not going to give us for free. I said, yeah, we are. Yeah, we'll give it to you for free. And she just broke down crying. I mean, this is a person that's renting me a car, you know, and you just come across that all the time. Somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you know,
restore faith in humanity, one conversation at a time.
Exactly. That's perfect.
If you're open to it, you know, bring your spirit with you, because there's people out there that need that connect, and that's so fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. Yeah. And that's where, you know, when you go back to coaching. Yeah. You know, that's why I have such admiration for you guys and for other coaches, because this is just an extension of things that you learn from like what you guys have done on your level in dealing with kids. You got them at the right time. You got them where you can really make the thing that I just love is when I have players come back, and they're calling me coach, and I say, hey, I'm Tom, and Paul Violi goes, no, you're coach, and they tell you this is the impression you made on me when you coached me in high school, and
Right.
it's the same thing with what we're doing, with the ministry and what you guys do, and all the people that you guys have affected in their lives and changed their lives around.
Yeah. So Tom, they get taken to camp. There's a certain part of the day where you guys are praying and speaking and doing those things. There's a part of the day they're doing physical activities, swimming, running, I don't know, horseback riding or whatever, is going on.
Tell us about
what's a day in the life. Yeah. What's a day in the life?
Well, we take them up in luxury buses.
Hey.
And they're just blown away by that, They're waiting for the yellow school bus to pull up, and then this luxury bus pulls up and they're inside and they can't believe it. Where the restroom in the bus is nicer than the ones they have at home.
Sure.
They say that. But when they get up to camp, we roll out the red carpet. We have the whole, support group is there as the kids are getting off the bus. We're applauding them, we're patting them on the back, shaking their hands. They want to give certain people hugs. And, then they go to their cabins. These are ages 7 to 17. So we have to match them up with kids of different age. But is there a good amount of every age, or is there a lot of kids and not so many teenagers, or how do you guys do that? No, it's pretty equal.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's pretty equal. They're right across the board. But each child, there's 2 kids for each mentor. So when that mentor gets on the bus with those kids, they don't leave them until they come back and they get off the bus and they're going home. And those mentors, stay with those kids. But then when they get there, they go to their cabins. We have worship time at the end. The lunchtime, and the food is just incredible. The kids they go nuts in that. There's a different color group. There's orange, red, blue, yellow, purple, and they each get T-shirts. And they get a different T-shirt every day. Faith, forgiveness, prayer. There's a saying on each T-shirt, but they get four different shirts in the time that they're there. We do a thing called SOAP, which is scripture, observation, application, and prayer, which is a big thing where they sit down and they read the scripture. They put down their thoughts on it. And I'll give you just a really quick, great story about this kid, Derek. It was at my first camp. And I was trying to do soap with him. He had a basketball. And I said, well, Derek, what do you think about this soap? Wouldn't say a word to me, So we're just sitting there and he's got the ball and he's kind of bouncing it. And I said, you think Jesus played basketball? And then all of a sudden he kind of turns his head a little bit. And I go, I bet you did. What do you think Jesus would be, like a power forward or a guard? And so he started getting, he started talking a little bit and he goes, they had that when Jesus. So I'm sure they played basketball. It's been around forever. And so I said, why don't you write something about that, on this, on the paper? And what this kid wrote, I mean, you talk about something that was inspired by the Lord. I mean, I was floored. And I said, do you want to get up and talk to the people? This kid was like 8 years old, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. I said, that's good. This is really good. That night, when I'm going back to the cabin, I feel a little tug on my back, and I turn around, and it's Derek. And I said, what's up, Derek? And he goes, can I talk to you? And he takes me off to the side. He's looking around like, I'm going, what's this kid going to do? He's looking around, see if anybody's around. He just goes, I love you. And he just runs off.
Oh, nice.
And when I'm telling that story, the hairs are standing up on the back of my neck, because, that makes everything worthwhile. If camp had stopped right there, I would have been totally blessed, but it doesn't. You're coming across that every day, and they get to play games, bows and arrows, like you mentioned, the pool. Hey. The last camp we had over Memorial Day, it snowed. And these kids still wanted to go in a swimming pool, you know. Yeah. But it was, you know, it's just that amazing time that they have. They let out everything. They're very competitive, you know, because they're kids, but you know, everything's very structured. There's no horses up there, no zip lines. Some of the camps up in that area have zip lines, but they get to do a lot of things, you know, arts and crafts. But by the time they leave, they don't want to go. They don't want to go home.
I think Tom,
Go ahead, Tommy.
No, I was just going to say that's exactly what my next thought was. You know, you're giving them this little window of love and things that they haven't experienced. There has to be some melancholy about them going home, or even they're feeling, gee, I don't want to go back, you know, like, or to wherever. Is there follow up, or is there, how does that all work?
Absolutely. And that's the thing that we work on constantly. You know, John and Liz, our directors, are putting more and more time in with the connections with these churches, because the more churches we get involved, we're able to see, here's where the kid lives. Here's the closest church to them. You know, are they an Angel Tree church? Because we work in conjunction with the Angel Tree, which is, you know, nationwide, you know, and that's the part where we work more and more, where we'll contact the pastor. Angel Tree will get involved with that. So we find that spot where the kid is going to continue his growth in the Lord, have support, you know, especially during the pandemic when there were people that helped out with the food, you know, from those churches. Paul Veely was just absolutely incredible with Veely and Sons, you know, giving food to the different churches, and what he's done for support for our camp. You know, it's just, that's the biggest battle, to keep centralizing that more and more and more, so those kids don't feel like, yeah, great, 4 days, you know, that'll never happen again.
Yeah. You know? It sounds like an extravaganza, Coach. I mean, just to, you know, the things you're talking about doing, the way you're feeding the kids, the luxury buses. Is it are you getting enough support? Is there any concern, you know, in terms of being able to continue to run a camp at that level?
You know, God's time, God's dime. You know, that's what John always says to us, because you know, I never ask a church for a donation. I never have, and I never will. And the church comes out. We just had the church give us a big check, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and they want to help out with the kids. They want to help out with the camp, you know, and that's all God. Because, you know, I'm not there going, you know, help these kids, you know, everything's going great now, can you sign a check over to me? I don't do that, you know.
Right.
I'll do it to businesses, you know.
I'll
be pretty generous with businesses, because I know they have it. And but the churches have just been incredible. The pastors and the flocks are just out of their way, you know, people signing up, you know, as mentors and volunteers, and they're really touched by it, you know. And we just got to keep going, you know, and asking some of these companies. It's a constant battle, you know. It's the most hours I've ever worked, and I love every minute of it. You know, there's not a time where I haven't enjoyed doing what I'm doing. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. The other thing that was interesting to me, they were talking about, you know, the large size of people, the mentors that you have to bring in. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, how do they go through their process? You know, I know as a coach, you know, we jump through a million hoops to be able for us to make sure that, you know, we're the right people. How do you do that with your guys?
Well, again, we get support from the churches, but Cal Baptist University has written up training for us. They've written up trauma classes. So we bring the mentors in. Yeah, Cal Baptist they've been incredible.
Really fantastic.
And they come in and they do the classes with us at the main church at Southlands, and that's just been a huge help. You know, preparing the mentors, and we go over with the volunteers the different things, hospitality, if they're going to help out when they put in their application, because everybody has to go through LiveScan, you know, for the kids.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
Yeah, they go through LiveScan, and we have all the support at camp. You know, we have huge medical support, doctors, we have security, all the churches have security now, which is really something. But a lot of the guys that work security at the churches volunteer to come to the camp and do that. And but the training is it's not intense, but they know when they get up there, they're not to be judgmental of the kids. If you're going to be a mentor, you're with those two kids the entire time. You don't let them leave your side, and that pays off big dividends for us. Yeah.
And are they going to stay in contact with the kids, or is that are we expecting them to keep in touch with those kids, or not really?
The mentors will keep in touch with the kids, more so the churches that we're most concerned about, because some of the mentors may live way on the other side of the city, but they fall in love with the kids. And the interesting part is that we had a prayer tent the first year. Second year we had 2 big prayer tents, and the people that come and ask for the most prayer, you're thinking, it's probably got to be the kids. Some mentors and volunteers. What they go through in seeing and listening to these kids, when the kids tell stories at night or share with them. And a kid, there was one example that you see on our video for camp where Natasha says, this little boy was so excited about his dad getting out of camp or getting out of prison, and they call a party for him, and one of his old running mates showed up at the party, and they got into an argument, and he came in and shot the dad dead in front of everybody.
There was a little boy that gave his story about how his dad got out and how happy he was and how the dad was doing so good, and some guy from the dad's past showed up and just shot him dead. And you're looking at these kids and you're hearing all the things that they have to go through at such a young age.
Who am I? How can I help these kids? I've never experienced a parent incarcerated growing up.
And yet that kid, resiliency to come back and get him back to camp and talk to him about the Lord and let him know there's somebody there for him. That's really all they want. They want to know somebody's going to be there to love them, and they don't get that at home, but they get it poured on big time in those 4 days. And, as much as we see them afterwards.
Yeah. Sounds like an amazing experience. Yeah. That's really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
I know Chuck and I are mandated reporters, Tom. Is that something that the people are trained for when they go to camp? I mean, you have these kids that are having this hard shell, and the shell comes down, it sounds like almost instantly in 12 to 24 hours. And they start sharing these things that are, not, maybe they haven't shared with anybody. Are you guys mandated reporters, or is that training that you guys go through, or what happens if something like that happens?
That's the trauma training we go through.
Good. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. I know there was at the last camp that we had before the COVID, I was watching a group of kids that were at lunch, and just like that, even I'm at the end of the table with this one group, this kid got up, went around, and then there was another kid that pounced him. And I mean, when you're kids, you think it's going to be headlocks and pushing or whatever. No, this kid started pounding this kid, and
Wow.
There was a little girl underneath, and this is the only incident really we've ever had at camp. But I went and I got the kid. I put my arms underneath him because you got to be really careful.
Yes.
And all I did is I just walked him with my arms kind of underneath his arms. Went outside, and this kid was so angry. I mean, just anger pouring out. And I said, relax, breathe. And because I'm not a counselor, I'm not about to try to counsel him. And so I said, how did that start? And he says, he said my face was uglier than my shirt. And he was just angry.
Yeah.
And I just sat there with him. And then we had somebody come up that was a mentor, and they started talking him down, and, he was okay. But, that's what the kids are around, and the thing I did say to the kid, I said, hey, you ever thought about taking up boxing? You ever boxed before? And, because I mean, back in my day, like I said, it was a headlock, but these kids, they grow up where, in the home where, the parents are beating them or whatever, and that's all they see.
I guess I
Yeah,
meant more like
tough
a broken
neighborhoods.
arm, or like the broken arms or the sexual abuse or the neglect or any of those things. Like we have to say, like we are required to, say
Report
something,
that.
report it.
We have to report it right away. And
Yes.
those kind of
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's a huge deal for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And we're always on our toes about that. The minute something comes up, we deal with that immediately.
Good. Yeah.
Especially,
Who
the medical people that we have there have worked in hospitals with kids, and they've come across and seen that kind of stuff. If kids got bruises all over them, that's something we'll report immediately.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. What a neat deal. It just seems like such a huge undertaking, and thank God that you guys are out there doing this. Where's the growth in Camp Agape, and how excited are you about the future of this program? And I know we'll talk a little bit about the one that's coming up, on the Labor Day, but what do you see going forward as being the next big moves to include more people, or what?
Yeah, multiple camps, having camps year round, having family camps. We're looking at that moving forward as something where, you bring the whole family together, and you have that family unity. That's what's missing at the beginning of all of it. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a very strong family, great parents, which I'm sure you guys were, but a lot of people, they don't, and we have a lot of kids that after they go through the camps, they turn around, they become mentors.
There you go.
They want to help the other kids. And that's where the growth comes from. Before anything, you set that base, and you have the base with the kids, and then you start putting the other kids growing into mentors. Then you have the family coming together. Eventually, in so many different areas. I'm excited about, being around for a camp when we have Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is going to be like a totally different camp.
Yeah.
In each section of the cities, you're dealing with different kids, different families,
Right.
So, I know that the head of Poor Boy Industries I went to school with at Loyola, and that's a connection that I've been trying to put together, because they have, LA area gangs, and there's so much out there to grow with and to spread. And just keep it going, just keep the fire going, and growing from within is huge for us, and we love seeing those kids coming up to be mentors and bringing their parents to camp to be as volunteers or mentors after they've been incarcerated. That's
wow.
Truly breaking the cycles, and allowing those healings to take place. And that's amazing, because I've seen it. Tom and I were fortunate enough to spend some time working at College Hospital, which is a psychiatric hospital, with the adolescents, and back during the time when they were locked units, and they weren't going anywhere, and we had family groups and then all the groups in between, and we really had a lot of fun, and really felt really positive things came out of that. But you learn to see the anger in those kids. The kids who don't have any way to channel that, and don't know, and then they walk out their doors and they're living in places where they got to fight, and they got to decide, and they got to take that anger. And so many kids get incarcerated themselves because they don't have a place for that anger to go, and that one bad decision or two bad decisions, and all of a sudden they're in prison and stuff like that. And it's to be able.
Well, back when we started Camp Agape, 50% of kids follow their parents to prison.
Wow.
And you see that, you understand what that's about. That's a lot of kids.
That's a huge number. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Do kids get to come again and again and again, or is it more of a one-shot deal, or how does that work?
No, they can come back anytime they want. When we started making up the list for this year, we had 150 kids sign up like that, and they were new kids. They were thinking, what about the kids that want to come back to camp? Are they going to have to be on a waiting list? And, you know, we weren't sure what we were going to have to do with COVID and whether we were going to have to do testing or not. And now that looks like it's going to be very positive that, you know, we're opening for more kids.
Nice. So is there a limit at this point, numbers wise, or are you just kind of, how do you guys do that part? I mean, there's a certain amount of money it costs for one child, and then, you know,
we can only go up to 225 kids at the camp. That's what they have the ability. That's max.
Okay.
And that's what we had last time, and we had a waiting list.
Wow.
You know, for the kids. There's a certain amount of attrition too, you know, because things come up, you know, whether it be families at the last minute or, you know, it being Labor Day. You know, we have a lot of support from universities that because kids are going back to school, we usually have this on Memorial Day. And this year we're having it on Labor Day. And there's a lot of people going back to school at that time. But, you know, we always want to get a bench. You know, it's just like you guys coaching football. You know, you got to have backups. You got to have people that have the heart for it and want to do it.
So right now we're just limited. I mean, because there's an unlimited amount of 3-day weekends, you know, there's an unlimited amount of school holidays. And so it's just a matter of funding at this point. Is that your biggest obstacle?
Funding's always a challenge, you know, but like I said, in all the past camps, and that's where, you know, Angel Tree comes in and is a huge support because they give us scholarships for those kids.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that is such a big help. And, you know, Angel Tree has given us leads to people that we could possibly bring to camp as far as, you know, sports figures, some different celebrities. You know, when the pastors come, the pastors are just blown away. You know, they get to camp and they just go, wow, I only came up to see this for a day, but, you know, next year I'm coming the whole 4 days, you know. And that's pretty cool, especially as busy as they are, you know.
So if I was going to volunteer or somebody in my family wanted to volunteer, would that be something, can I choose to pay for myself to go, to release the burden of me being there and feeding me? Cause I'm a big guy. I eat a lot.
And they have great food, man.
I know. I mean, my ears went, oh.
Yeah, they have great food. But yeah, anybody's, you know, who has the heart to give, you know, is able to. It's like I always say, if we can get $5 from, you know, 5,000 people, we're going to help the camp. You know, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. All of the companies, I think they should pay more than their fair share, you know, because it's a lot of money. You know, I've been at two big companies, so I know how much money is available. But I also know there's a lot of charities that ask for their help too. So
how long does it take to teach a mentor, to certify a mentor? Is it something that we need to do 2 months before the date? Is it something we can do the weekend before? How does that?
We have them there a month before the camp. We have them the second week of August is one of the trainings, and then we have another one, and then we're learning more too. And this is where Cal Baptist really helped us out. They gave us videos, training videos, and for people that can't make the training, you know, we were able to send out the training videos they can look at and certify them. You know, and you're going to have a certain amount of people whose heart is really into it. And the ones that really have their heart into it are the ones that have had kids, you know, either incarcerated or a husband or a wife incarcerated. You know, we have a church, New Wine Church. It has an awful lot of motorcycle clubs, you know, that have a heart for Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they've been extremely, you know, helpful in the camp. We had a skit that we had where we had them come up, and on one side of their poster it said, "This is where I was," and then they turned the poster over and they said, "This is where I am now." You know, and whether it said they were incarcerated and now they're with a motorcycle group for Jesus. You know, these are guys where the kids look at and they go, these are hard dudes, but they're saying Jesus touched their heart, you know, and kids relate to that.
That's awesome.
Is there any requirements beyond parents being incarcerated? I mean, obviously there's a faith component. What if you're don't have a religion, or what if you are Muslim, or what if you're in a different, I know it's maybe a tough question, but is that something that you guys have to sort out?
We accept any kid whose parents are incarcerated.
Any kid. That's
Doesn't
awesome.
matter. Any kid. Yeah.
That's great.
And one thing we work on too is, we've been working with handicap, and challenged children, and we have some people that are teachers in that field, and they're able to help these kids. To see we had one kid, and I don't know his name offhand, but he came up and, is hardly able to walk, and, had some challenges physically, but to see the look on his face when he's walking down that red carpet.
Yeah.
You just, you break down, you break down.
So I don't have, let's say I wanted to get involved. I don't have to necessarily be a mentor with 2 children. I can sweep up the place, or I can serve food, or I can run the basketball tournament, or there's other things to do besides directly having relationship with the children. Is that right? Like operations?
When you go into campagapecalifornia.com to sign up as either a mentor or volunteer, there's a list of things what might pique your interest. We've had a couple of people that, they're trained to be nurses, and
nice.
The medical team has taken them on, or media people. I major in media. That's a huge help, so we find more and more people that fill those roles, that are really good security. Medical's always big, because we've been so lucky, when they get to camp, there's medication these kids have to take, and the organization of that, and how the medical team is really ready to take care of all that, is really a blessing to us.
Wow, that's neat. Well, campagapecalifornia.com is where you can go to look into being a mentor and a volunteer, or to donate, those kind of things. So everybody who's listening in on this deal, our 20 people that listen, Tom, let's get on board, man. Let's see what we can do to help Camp Agape this year, and we'll continue to pub this. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. You can go to that site. There's lots of information. So everybody should take the opportunity to take a look at it, because there are a lot of things, charities and things out there, but I can't imagine anything more important than what you're doing, Coach. And I'm really glad that you got a chance to come on and talk about it. What else can you tell us that you want to let everybody know before we do some fun stuff?
Just that we ask for prayer. That's our number one request over money or anything else, that people pray for the camp, pray for the kids and the families, pray for the mentors and the volunteers, and that the camp, goes well in the Lord's hands. And, and if there's any other way you can help out, whatever your heart tells you, just go with God. And like we said, God's time, God's dime. God will always provide. So
that's great. campagapecalifornia.com. Go check it out, and let's do some good. It's a great cause, and I can't wait to jump on there and see what I can help out with, Coach. So it'll be good. Tell us a couple stories about your St. Paul experience. Tell us a couple stories about what give us a good one. I know you got. How about the mountain retreat and stuff like that? You got any good ones?
Oh no, I think I might have to write a letter of disclaimer on this if I were to tell any of those stories.
Well, amazing.
I know
guys.
We're very fortunate that we're here today. I know,
no doubt. Yeah, that's why I said. I told Tom we took off to drive up to the mountains with 6 coaches in a motorhome and 4 or 5 players. And they said, "Hey, Willie, come here. You ever drive one of these motorhomes?" I said, "Yeah, I drove them for Amrak when Kirk Jellerson's dad worked. We worked in the summer." He's like, "Good, you're driving." And we got that thing going up the hill up to Big Bear going, "Yeah, I think I got it."
It was a coach's retreat?
What's that?
Was it like a coach's retreat, or what was it?
It was well, the coaches had a retreat right before Hell Week.
Oh, okay.
They took the captains and the quarterbacks, and we all went up and we worked on breaking down film with the coaches and you know, but we were fortunate enough to be you know, in all in one place, and Coach Ansich was in another place, so there was a lot of shenanigans going on. There was a lot of shenanigans going on. There were guys running and hiding in the woods, and
oh man,
you know, some shaving of the heads, if I recall. But
oh man,
but such an amazing character group of guys in all forms and fashions. I mean, to the edge of every envelope that I had ever known, you know, and truth be told, you know, some of the most intense individuals, again, that I'd ever seen on the football field, but you know, taught us some amazing football, and a lot of our toughness that we had to learn how to mold ourselves into what we are now. But to have that kind of toughness, you know, you were a part of that deal and got to see that. That was pretty.
You know, a couple of real quick ones that I remember the most is this goes back to the late 60s, you know, when Sam Cunningham was playing for Santa Barbara. And you know, they had those passing leagues. There's supposed to be a scrim. There was never such a thing as a light scrimmage for guys from St. Paul, you know, and they made Sam Cunningham cry at halftime that he didn't want to come back out to play in the game because he was being hit so hard.
wow.
I also remember when Kevin Nelson was at Pius 10th, and he had just had 3 games where he ran for 726 yards or whatever. Coach Norton got the defense together, and as they were getting ready to come out in the field, the defense was going Nelson. He had 35 yards for the game against St. Paul, you know, and
he had like 35 yards on 17 carries, and
and you know, when they had pass, I was talking to Hindi Ansich the other day, and when they had their passing leagues, they would say, okay, this is, you know, with those little soft helmets on or whatever. Well, St. Paul guys were just cracking people, you know, and Coach Ansich, you know, would be, hey, you know, what can we do? You know, it's football. And, you know,
I don't know.
That's just, I ain't kidding you. It's just the way things work, you know. And I do have a really funny story, and this will tell you a little bit about Coach Ansich. Is, you know, like I said, Tony and I, we would get the scouting reports literally done sometimes before we come in on Sundays. And I asked Coach one night, I said, Coach, you know, let me get in the 180 room and I'll have the complete, you know, thing done before you guys come in on Sunday, you know, written up and everything. And so he just goes, okay, I'll leave the key out in the front of my house in the mailbox, you know. So I go up there that night, and Barry, the bus driver, was sleeping in his bus, as a matter of fact, because he hadn't gone home yet. But I get up there and, you know, I look in the mailbox, nothing there, you know. So I'm going, oh, he must have forgotten. I went up, knock on the door. I know somebody's home. Knock on the door, no answer. So I, you know, went back, checked the mailbox, looked around, wasn't there. You know, so I drive away. Next morning, I come up, and here comes Coach with his dozen donuts from Winchell's. And I said, Coach, what happened to the key last night? He goes, you know, you get Tom, you know, like he didn't hear you. And he said, Coach, the key, you know, you were going to leave the key in the mailbox. Oh, Tom, you know, I saw you at the last minute. I was running down the street after your car. You didn't see me waving to you, you know. Classic, you know.
Tom, I coach at Villa Park with Dushan Ansich.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did for quite a while, and I've since retired. But you know, we had that whole thing where all of California was starting to wear those hats, those helmets, you know, like it wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden it was a thing. Now everybody's got them. And Dushan asked me, he's like, well, what do you think? I said, I'm a teacher. So yeah, liability. I said, but you know that when you put those helmets on, it's a license to stick your nose in there, right? I mean, you're actually going to get more injuries with these darn helmets than you're going to protect you. And he's like,
I know.
Man, you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense. I said, because I guess he was asking me because he knew we wore them at St. Paul. And, you know, we were like the weird outliers, at least when I was there, you know, we were the only guys with those goofy things on, and they were flying off all the time and nobody was ever buckling their chin straps. But anyways, I was like, man, somebody's going to get worse. They're going to get banged up worse with these darn things. And then
when Chuck was talking about, you know, those trips up to the mountains, you know, God, now you got me started. But one thing you learn as a coach, and this is always thing to remember, that if the car is overcrowded and a coach tells you to get in the trunk of the car,
oh no,
don't ever get in the trunk of the car.
Don't ever get in the trunk.
Especially with the driver training car, you got one of the coaches that's able to stop the car on a dime, you know, and you hear a guy in the back in the trunk going, "Let me out here," you know, and you know, afterwards you tell the guy, you know, you made one mistake. You got in the trunk.
You got in the trunk.
You know, and then one of the coaches took me, and we were out one time down in Long Beach, and we were at a restaurant. And I was with he had a couple of buddies who were pro football players. One, both of them actually played for the Rams, and I was out of my league. I mean, I was really out of my league with these guys because I was a lightweight compared to them. And the last thing I remember, it was 5:30 in the morning. I was on my parents' lawn, and my dad came out and woke me up and says, "Let's get you inside, get you some clothes, and you know, get you showered up." And you know, they just had just left me on the lawn of my parents' house. You know,
at least it wasn't the neighbor's lawn.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly.
Those details are very important.
Good point. Yeah, but yeah, we had some. You know, shaving the heads was a classic. You know, coming back, and the kids went nuts. You know, and they had that last day of Hell Week party in the gym, and those times are, you know, you can't even go there with some of those stories, you know.
No, you sure can't.
That goes back all the way to the 60s, you know.
Yeah, man.
Guys running around with chalk all over them in the middle of the night and stuff. Yeah. I mean, those are the stories. I mean, you know, we came in after a scene that happened, and some, you know, and that was, you look back on that and you go, and we had kids stay over, and I'm going to say, you guys might have stayed over.
Yeah, my class stayed over,
like, you know, and into the 90s season, we had sleepovers. But after it stopped, you just look back and you went, you know, and we came in the morning after the last day of camp, and there was some trouble, and all of a sudden we were all sitting in the gym, and I'm a sophomore kid sitting in the gym looking up at the stage, and a couple of seniors were standing there. They called out names, and guys walked behind the curtain, and all you heard is, and then they walked back and they went back to their seat, and they went, "Okay, now so-and-so come up," you know.
Oh, jeez.
You know, what happened was they were policing, they were told to police the deal. There was some stuff that happened. These guys need to be taken care of, you know, and it was such an interesting, you know, a number one way of doing things, because it was pretty wild and violent, but everybody, like, nobody quit. Nobody got really angry at it or anything. Nope. They went back to their seat and took their punishment like a man, and went out and continued to be team football players. It was the most amazing thing to me looking back,
right,
that those kind of things went on, and that there were no lawsuits, and there were no, you know, and nobody got hurt, but it was, you know, you were on an island, and you took care of your own discipline, and you took care of, and that the coaches didn't just take us out and run us, but put the players in the gym to take care of that thing. It just spoke volumes of what they had instilled in us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fear, you know, sitting there as a sophomore going, "Oh shit, that's never going to be me. I'm never going to get in that kind of trouble." You know, just amazing stuff. But you know, such great tradition and things that we were a part of, that you know, they have a million stories of tough guys with a lot of heart, and guys that would, you know, follow the program, you know, over the wall. You know, and they did.
Yeah, if you go back to some of those 60 teams, I went to St. Bruno's, and I stayed at the Lee House, which was right across the street from St. Bruno's. Ronnie Lee and I were really good friends, and the Greg Lee was a rover for this championship, the coach championship team, and just a stud. But that Lee household, the things that you saw with players coming over from St. Paul at some of the nights, you know, or you know, the front door is made out of made out of glass, and you hear something crash, and there's a hand when you get there going like this and going, "Hey, the door's unlocked. What are you doing?" You know. But it was just a crazy time, you know. And there were some unique personalities going all the way back to that time, and the fights between El Rancho and spying on each other, you know, and Coach Mazzota, the older Mazzota, you know, they caught him spying one time, and the coaches raced and tried to catch him in the field, and it was just you know. And Coach Ansich, you know, out in the practice field, he'd always walk around, you know, you'd see him in the corners and stuff, and he'd walk out, and I got to the point where I thought he was planning all the stuff out there, but he'd go, "Hey, look what I found," and come out with some kind of dime or something, or a football, and it was just.
What's funny is I was a freshman in 1984. Like it was Jim Walker and Miguel Almeida and those guys by that time, and we still had a lot of the traditions. And I remember as a freshman at Hell Week, right? It was before Hell Week because we were just in shirts, with white shirts and all that. And a helicopter flew over, and it was like, okay, serpentine, everyone, flurry around. It's Servite. Servite's looking for us. Servite's spying on us. Run crazy, like.
No, I'm ready. Serpentine! What? Serpentine! Serpentine! Jump! Where the hell are the keys?
Are you kidding me? And look, we're all looking around like, what's Servite? I don't even know. I was like, I'm a school kid.
Serpentine. What is
that? We were all bumping into each other, turned into a melee. Like kids started punching each other on our own team. I was like, what are we doing? I'm confused. I just want to play football. But now you hear the stories,
Coach Jansen said Dan Costin on myself over to pick up some film at Servite.
Oh man.
And Paul Lopez was the fullback that year. And so we get over there, and the players said, "Can we help you guys?" And we said, "Yeah, we're scouts from the University of Utah."
Oh, nice.
And so all these kids come around, and they're huddled around us, and we're saying, "Yeah, what's the deal? Who you guys play this week?" "Oh, we play St. Paul. We're all ready for this kid Lopez, and we're going to do this and do that." We go, "Yeah, well, that's great." Then one of the coaches comes out of the locker room. They had a coach that had a wheelchair, and he sees us, and he turns around real quick, goes back inside. Here comes all the coaches pouring out, and they go, "What are you guys doing here?" I said, "We just came to pick up some films, And the coaches are over yelling at the kids. "Well, they told us that they were, scouts, man. We had no idea." And it was just a riot, man.
That's awesome.
Dan and I laughed so hard on our trip back with those films. It was.
That's great. Yeah.
Good time.
What a cast of characters. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom. Again, we're so pleased to have you come on and chat a little bit about all this stuff and catch up a little bit. And like I said, all the prayers and sending our love and spirit to you for the success of this. And I'm sure I know Tom and I are going to get on CampAgapeCalifornia.com and check it out and see where we're at here. And we'll continue to encourage everybody else to do it. We got some fun stuff that we do at the end, Coach, and we're going to do them with you. So, Tommy, you ready? Take it away.
Okay. All right, Coach. Just a few questions that we do, make compilation videos. We ask these to everybody. So, what is your desert island records? Like, what are the 5 records you would take to the desert island?
Beach Boys, Beatles.
Nice.
Tool.
Attaboy. I think you looked at Chuck's face. Did you look at Chuck's Facebook before this? Or what? That's pretty good.
The Who.
Right on.
And Jethro Tull.
Hey, attaboy. That's
Very
pretty
good,
cool.
Very good. I'm a huge Tool fan. I've been to like 20.
Huge.
Oh, they're great. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's an amazing deal.
All right, Tom. Who is one person who made an impact on your life that doesn't know it? Now's your chance.
Probably my oldest brother.
Nice.
Yeah.
How much older is he than you?
4 years.
Right on. Perfect.
Tell us a little bit about your brother.
Well, he's a clinical psychologist up in Sacramento, yes. And he's the guy that when the parents tell you keep it down because your brother's studying, and never got a below an A in his life, and just one of those natural geniuses, where I got to work for a B. He gets, he sleeps in, does the study and gets an A, but he was just always so level-headed. He's really intelligent. Very, very kind-hearted, a lot like my dad. And
Is he a Loyola Cubby?
He is.
Hey.
Yeah, he traveled all over the country with Optimist Internationals because he was a great speaker. You know, he did speeches and debates, and he got some great national awards when he was even in grammar school.
Oh, neat.
So he
Right on.
real stand-up guy too. And, you know, if you need somebody, he's going to be there for you.
Wow, that's perfect. Thank you.
Neat.
How about something every young athlete should know? So you spent some time coaching. What is one thing every young athlete should know?
Listen to your coaches.
That's easy.
Yeah, just listen to your coaches.
What would you
It's like in the Army, you listen to your NCOs, you know.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly what my son said. Just do what the drill sergeant says and you'll be fine. What would you like to be known for in 50 years?
My faith.
Solid. It's working out.
Yeah.
All right, here's one. If you had Jeff Bezos money, what would you spend it on to make your country or community stronger? I feel like we've talked about this, but that's a lot of money.
To make sure that nobody goes hungry.
The food. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You would be surprised, Tom, how many people say that exact thing. Homeless and the food. Homeless and food. Yeah. It seems, you know, like we could all agree on those things.
Yes.
Okay, so now I teach world history and psychology, so we're going to do the speed round, and we'll try to keep it appropriate.
Okay.
Do our best. So it's just
I practice for this. I practice for this.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm waiting for someone. There's going to be this one person. I don't know who it is. I'm going to give them two choices, and they're going to say the third one, and maybe that'll be you today. So let's see. All right, so let's get started. So just as fast as it comes to your mind. Elvis or Jerry Lee?
Elvis.
Coffee or Red Bull?
Red Bull.
Beatles or Stones?
The Who.
The Who. Good. There you go. Ford or Chevy?
Toyota.
Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Let's see. Harrison Ford or Paul Newman?
Paul Newman.
Android or iOS?
iOS.
Baseball or football?
Football.
Duh. Taylor Swift or Shania Twain?
Shania Twain.
July 4th or New Year's?
July 4th.
Yeah, we're feeling it right now, aren't we? Hawaii or Paris?
Paris.
Burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
A couple more. Ali or Tyson?
Ali.
Good call. Batman or Superman?
Neither.
No.
Neither. No.
You're more of a Green Arrow guy, huh?
Yeah.
Aquaman. Let's see. World War II.
No, I like Captain America. Captain America.
Oh, Captain America. Good call. He's Marvel. He's a Marvel guy. World War II or Vietnam? Speaking of Captain America.
Oh, I can't say on that one.
That's brutal. And that's a brutal question. Yeah.
Both. Yeah.
It's a very interesting. And then last one that we always do, especially for our California people, Vin Scully or Chick Hearns?
Vin Scully.
All right. Thank you so much.
Because my dad used to take me to ball games at the Coliseum when I was a kid.
Had the little transistor radio.
Yeah, exactly. That's right, bro. Listen to Vinny, and they're all in suits.
Yeah.
You know, they still got their ties on.
The businessman special.
What a day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Larry Sherry,
I love
Johnny
watching the old
Roseborough.
movies just to see that. You know,
Yeah,
that's,
man.
You know,
great.
watching Johnny Roseborough get hit by Juan Marichal with a bat over the head. You know, those can't beat those days. You know,
Wow,
Giants
man.
throwing batteries at Dodger fans. You
Yeah,
know.
man.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's great.
Just
It's an honor for me, guys. Tommy, it's an honor meeting you. I'm glad I got to meet you. And Chuck, love you, man. And